What's up, crew? My name's Sebastian. Today we're going to be going over every single detail you may have missed in the March issue of Game Informer that featured The Outer Worlds. We're going to cover everything, and there's over 75 details here you may have missed or didn't read. Let's just jump right into it. First of all, as you can see from the concept art, it's a beautiful artistic style. It's going to be aesthetically gorgeous. I think you'll love the game. Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and the studio head at Obsidian, Various Urquhart, are going to be working on this. What an incredible trio to have on a video game. Next up, maybe we'll be able to catch a flick in this because in the magazine there's a movie poster, Terror of Monarch, with Ruth Bellany playing Halcyon Helen, which is a movie poster of her 12 episodes. That's kind of cool. Maybe there'll be some in-game lore about that. I think it's cool because it's obviously world building. There will be tons and tons to do. In addition to that, there's another movie poster called Titus Androidicus, which we don't really know anything about, but it's interesting as well. Obviously, The Outer Worlds is going to be a first-person RPG, and it's going to take place in the Halcyon star system. Many people don't realize this, but Halcyon is a star system, not a planet. Just something to clarify. This is an alternate history timeline, kind of like Fallout, where robber barons from the 19th and 20th century never actually ended. If you don't know what that means, it's basically capitalism and corporate greed. Tactical time dilation is like VATS, and it comes from being frozen in your pod for so long, which is kind of a scientific reason for explaining why you can slow down in time for the combat system to be able to target limbs. It's basically to help people who aren't as shooter friendly and to make the game more accessible in general for RPG players. Corporate entities are taking over the colony worlds. I'm sure you've heard this before. It's kind of the main plot line. Emerald Vale Community Center, presented by Spacer's Choice, is a possible location in this game. In fact, it's almost definite. Kaine says it's just a game, which is important because you can take many different political views from this game when you talk about the corporate entities, but it's just a game. Let's just have fun with it. The first Halcyon colony ship arrived decades ago with teachers, farmers, corporate heads, and everyone to rebuild a society. The government decided that the second ship, called the Hope, is going to be placed in a parking spot in orbit in order not to bother anyone. A scientist's experiments is actually what brings you back to life after being frozen in your cryopods 70 years after the first ship arrived at Halcyon. Everyone thinks everything is great because they are in the society. You are the unplanned variable, which will break this. You know better, and you are the unplanned variable is kind of a trademark of The Outer Worlds at this point. It's been thrown around a lot. This guy over here, which I'm sure you've seen before, is Dr. Phineas Wells. He is the guy who breaks into the Hope spaceship you're trapped in and actually saves you. While Dr. Phineas Wells actually breaks into the ship, the Hope, you're going to be creating your character, and he'll be using these robot arms to choose which frozen bodies he actually wants to save. So depending on your choice of attributes and body type, all that kind of thing, he'll actually be making comments about your character while you're being created, and that's amazing. I think the fact that the game is so self-aware is incredible. Salt tuna is a weird salmon tuna hybrid that's apparently very common in Halcyon, which tastes disgusting. Each company has their own quest line, and their combat ability improves after each quest you do for them, which is interesting because it makes me think these companies will be at war. You can choose from approximately 24 aptitudes assigned by corporations, which make minor bonuses to your character depending on what you choose. These can include, mailman, delivery person, that kind of thing. It's like a job, an aptitude. Terra 2 is the initial planet that you will be dropped on. It's the first one we see in the trailer, and it's kind of gonna be the main planet, I'm guessing the biggest planet that you can play on. Phineas wants to revive all of the frozen bodies because he feels the government hasn't treated them fairly. Do whatever you want, doesn't matter. Apparently you can just kill whoever you want, you can shoot whoever you want, you can save whoever you want, or you don't have to kill anyone. It's literally do whatever you want. Now, this is one of the most interesting details I took from this article. It might be my personal favorite. Depending on what you do, the media actually reports different things. Kind of think of Three Dog from Fallout 3 or Mr. New Vegas from Fallout New Vegas. The Halcyon Observer is a magazine or newspaper, which we see here in these pictures, where it actually depicts different things and different perceptions of your character based on what you do. So for example, if you do a quest, depending on what you do, you'll get a different outcome in that observer, and you'll see these on your loading screen. So Miracle of the Frontier, Death and Destruction, Stalk the Frontier, and Terror of the Frontier are all different possibilities depending on what you do in Emerald Vale, which we see in this magazine. It's pretty cool. The Outer Worlds is a shorter experience which leads to more replayability. Edgewater community run by the Spacer's Choice on Terra 2, Edgewater's just a town. The Order of the Scientific Inquiry religion is very controlling, wants to manipulate you into doing what you want. I had no idea religions were a thing before I read this magazine. Nobody's really talked about it. Another religion is the Philosophists, which seem to have some internal disagreements according to this. We'll have to see what that entails in the game. Also, I didn't want to spoil anything, but this Game Informer describes like a few simple quests that you'll actually be able to do, which I kind of left out. I don't want to talk about in case you want to experience it yourself and be surprised. A ship acts as your base for your crew. You're gonna have a ship. That's where all of your characters will be. That's where tons of rooms will be. That's where you can go and explore different areas. Now, they mentioned a few different companions in this. Pavarti is a mechanic from Edgewater, which uses a big hammer. That's their special ability. It says Ellie is a gun for hire, and Felix is a rebel without a cause. So we don't know much more about that, but we know those three ones. The ship has a personality. It's a player hub. There's actually kind of a non-sentient computer which you'll be able to talk to and discuss things with, and your ship is its own character pretty much. Marauding thugs are characters which can kind of be similar to raiders if you think back to Fallout. I know I talk a lot about Fallout, but obviously the creators of the Fallout are working on this game. So if you're a fan of Fallout, you'll probably be a fan of this. The ship itself is not wholly customizable, but what you will do in the game and collectible objects will show up in there, and depending on your actions, it will alter what the ship looks like. Each companion has a quest line themselves, which you'll be able to do and level up on and improve on, and it'll help your companions grow. Talking about the board is some kind of government entity that we don't really know too much on, but they're kind of this all-controlling powerhouse. Rizzo's Candies, no idea what that is, but it was mentioned. Auntie Cleo's Helpful Pharmaceuticals, this just leads back to Auntie Cleo's, which is one of the big corporations we know of in the Outer Worlds. Robots are apparently worthless pretty much and easy to lie to. In fact, there's some propaganda in here that says you should shoot them if you see them and take pot shots for practice. The Groundbreaker was the first ship to arrive, which actually turned into a big space station hub between Terra 2 and the Halcyon Star in the Lagrange Point. Sublight Shipping and Salvage is apparently an organized crime ring, which you can find on the Groundbreaker. Don't know much more about that, but there you go. Roseway is another location similar to Edgewater. Byzantium is a bigger location, which is apparently a gated community of popular people, and you're not allowed in there unless you have access. The moon is called Monarch. There's a gas giant called Olympus, and everything is bigger on these two planets, and people don't necessarily like the board because they kind of got affected by terraforming and that kind of thing. So when you go to these planets, you might see some different things that kind of look odd to us because it'll be bigger, mutated, that kind of thing. Tartarus is a planet which holds a maximum security prison, and there's an asteroid Sicula which houses scientific labs and a transmission station. All those locations we should be able to visit in the game, but there are some following ones which are just kind of filler content which you'll be able to view from your spaceship apparently, which are Typhon, an ice planet, Eridanus, a gas giant, and Hephaestus, which is a mineral-rich planet. You can see them again, but we won't be able to visit them. Probably DLC content is what I'm thinking. They're kind of setting up the lore of the system, but we'll see what happens. You can bring up to 2 companions with you while you're roaming the worlds. A few attributes that we know of are strength, perception, and charm, and these can be ranked from very high to below average, which will affect your scores. Dumb dialogue options are apparently a thing. If you don't have very high intelligence, don't know what you're talking about, you can play dumb. Your skills can go up to level 50. Skills are some of these including medicine and science, engineering, tech, stealth, dialogue, defense, weapons. You earn perks every few levels, not every level, but also this magazine mentions flaws, which I'm sure you've heard about, but flaws are kind of perks but they come with disadvantages but kind of help you at the same time. It's a super interesting thing. I'll make a whole video on it, but you can Google flaws in the Outer Worlds if you want to know more, but it's super interesting. It doesn't really say much, it just mentions that they're a thing. There are 4 difficulty levels from Story to Supernova. In Story, you'll be able to have 3 flaws. In Supernova, you'll be able to have up to 5, which is interesting. There's a shrink way, which obviously shrinks your opponents. Science weapons are one of a kind, effective with a higher science skill. I'm thinking there's going to be more than just 3 companies because this article mentions a lot of companies. For example, T&L is apparently very high known for high-end weapons. Spacer's Choice is more known for weapons that are cheap but replaceable. And Hammersmith is more weapons for modding. Kinds of weapons we'll be able to see will be light and heavy melee weapons, handguns, long guns, heavy ranged, tons of other kinds. There's an ugly stick, which is another one-of-a-kind science weapon, which we can kind of picture what it does from the name. There will be no romance at all in this for various different reasons. It makes it kind of complicated, it taints player choice, blah blah blah, no romance. And Private Division is the publisher and Obsidian is the developer. That's everything that we got that's unique information from this Game Informer article. It was pretty good. I'm glad I read it. I hope you guys learned some stuff. That's over 75 details. Leave a comment down below what you think about all of this. If you learned something, what do you need to know? I hope you like this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see, if you want more Outer Worlds, all that kind of stuff. Love to talk to you. And yeah, see you later, crew. Sebastian out.
Yes, I like the rhymes.
All of us are born with the miraculous ability to determine the direction from which sounds approach us.
Let us venture into new and uncharted land.
People get shook up, when I'm introduced as God.